So, hello everyone. It's 7:20. I very much apologize that we're late. It's wonderful that so many could join and make the switch right away. And so we're still expecting a few more people. And so I'm going to tell a story that I was planning on telling at the end if we had time. And then I'll officially start this. Obviously, we've had some tech problems, but we're all good now. So the story, which will allow a few more people to join. There was a guru in ancient India, and he had a band of disciples, and they would walk around. They didn't use modern-day transportation. And the guru would ask his disciples to have a fruitarian diet, to eat only fruits. And so most of them, they were fine with that. It was fine. But this band of disciples would very often get invited to people's houses. And now Master told this story. So he said that in ancient times, God only knows how long ago, that people used to eat meat in India. And so they got invited to someone's home, and the hostess was serving meat. And the hostess said, would you all like to eat meat? And the guru said, I would love to eat the meat, but to my disciples, no. You cannot eat the meat. And so everyone else was eating fruit, the guru was eating meat. And then afterwards, after all the function was finished, this band of disciples, one of their disciplines was to walk from one place to the next. So they had to walk to their next place, and it was a very long march, 20 miles or something long like that. And so one of the disciples he started going very negative and saying, this is not right. Of course you have plenty of strength. You've been eating all this meat. You can do this long walk. But the rest of us, that fruit, it burned off long ago after mile number 1. And how do you expect us to do this? This isn't fair. And so the guru said, this disciple who was going a little negative, his name was Markat. And so the guru said to Markat, so you think you can eat what I eat? And the disciple said, yes. And the guru said, you sure you want to eat what I eat? Yes. And the disciple was thinking, now I get to eat meat. This is wonderful. So they walked a little further, and then they came to a place where they were going to rest. And everyone was going to look for their fruit and everything. And Markat, the guru said to Markat, come with me. It's time for you to eat what I eat. And he found a blacksmith who was pounding red hot nails with a hammer in the iron. And the red hot nails, and the guru said, all right, Markat. And so the guru picked up these red hot nails and started eating them. And Markat thought, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to get some meat here. And now he said, no, I can't eat what you eat. I'm sorry. And he bowed down and he said, I apologize. I will follow your instructions now. So that was a little fun story to allow more people to join. And so this class today, we did this a few weeks ago, and it was the class on diet and Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings on diet. And today I'm going to focus a lot more on not just physical food, but also energy and magnetism, a mental diet as well. So we're going to look at you as a 3-part being and your mental body. And we're going to talk about how all 3 of those interact and are interrelated, and how the physical diet will affect those, and how we can have more energy, how energy can become something that's very real to us, and ultimately how all of this is in our minds, but we're not there yet, and so we have to take things one step at a time. So that's the plan for this evening. To be quite honest, I had a very detailed schedule in Excel for how many minutes I was going to talk about each topic, but I'm going to abandon that. And we were supposed to end at 8:30. I'm not even going to make promises for that. We might end at 8:30. We might not. Let's see how long it takes to get through all of this material. Unfortunately, I prepared all these beautiful notes, and I can't share them with you because I'm terrified to try to learn how to use the screen sharing option on YouTube Live, if it's even there. So what we'll do, just like last time, we will share the notes with you. I'll make reference to them right now. This video will be posted up on the Ananda Kolkata channel, and we'll send you the notes, and you can review the notes, and you'll be able to understand more deeply in that way. So without further ado, let's get started. And I'm going to start with another story. And this one was about Master, and he was at a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco. And he was there with a group of disciples. And this story is in The New Path by swamikriyananda. It's also written in a biography by swamikriyananda. And interestingly, Swamiji tells more names in that book. But in The New Path, he doesn't say who all the names are. But they had a hostess who took them out to dinner. And Dr. Lewis was there, Master was there, Norman was there. And the hostess ordered a vegetarian meal, but what ended up happening is little bits of chicken were sprinkled. So she started making a big fuss about this and yelling and telling them they were doing wrong. And so I'm just going to read off of these notes that she stormed angrily into the kitchen and denounced the staff for this outrage. But Master considered it an uncontrolled temper a far worse sin than the relatively minor one of eating chicken. And he said it's not important enough to make a fuss over. But a very interesting thing, there's another book, I believe it's called Christ Consciousness, by one of Master's disciples, Norman. And he writes the story from his point of view. And underneath the table, Master was kicking Norman. And he was saying, eat the chicken, just eat the chicken, and kicking him. And the point, I bring this story up right in the beginning because the energy that we're eating with, the consciousness we're eating with, the energy that's in food. And this evening we will go over vibrational, energetic qualities of food. We're talking on an astral level this evening. That's much more important than exactly what we are eating. And there's three kind of energies that get interrelated while we eat. One of them is the actual energy of the food we're eating, the vibrational quality. Then one of them is our own consciousness. And then one of them is the consciousness in the restaurant we're in, if someone's making a big fuss, and that will impact our digestion. So we'll talk about them, but it's important to understand that everything is energy. Now, this was one, and the title of it is The Function of the Breath is to Burn Out Carbon. And I'm not sure how many people, I see some names here, how many people here watching are Kriya bonds. But when we practice Kriya, he was giving, and he said that the body produces carbon. And I thought he must have made a mistake because the body doesn't produce carbon, that it is absorbing carbon through the intestines and taking it into the bloodstream, that when we eat carbon, the body's absorbing it, it's not producing it. But then I read this lesson that I wanted to share with you, which you'll get in the notes of the Preceptor lessons. And then I heard Master say the same word, produce, and not absorb. And then I heard Swami say it again. And I realized once again that the gurus, they know what they're talking about, and that I had made a mistake. But this one word, produce versus absorb, becomes very, very important. So the body produces, meaning your digestive system is highly intelligent. And even if you've eaten a meal that is heavy and very full of carbon, your body knows whether it wants to absorb that from the intestines and take it into the bloodstream or not. And so if you sit very, very still and you start calming your heart, and that means your emotions as well as the then you're going to, your body will become very intelligent. It is very intelligent. It will know that it does not need to produce, meaning LL, all carbon from the blood. And that's what we're doing with Kriya. It takes a real level of advancement to learn how to do that. But here's one thing that can become very interesting, is that if we fast and we don't eat for whatever, you experiment with whatever works for you, 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours, whatever the case is, it makes it easier to burn out all the carbon from the blood, because the carbon then isn't in the stomach even. So even if you're sitting and you're restless and your intestines are giving that carbon into the bloodstream, that you don't need it. I'm sorry, it won't be there. When you haven't eaten for 24 hours, there's nothing to take in. And if you're practicing Kriya with that carbon out of the blood and off of energization and all of that, experiment with very slowly. If at all. If you don't want to experiment with it, you can see, just by sitting still, you can get the same beneficial. So don't go fanatical about it, but experiment with it. Probably many of you are not Kriya bonds. This is something that you'll get later in life, or so I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's important for you to understand what's going on with the carbon in the blood. Because once you can burn out all the carbon in your bloodstream, your heart does not have to pump as fast. It can slow down, honestly, all the way down to zero. Maybe we'll become very, very peaceful and make the breath very calm and the heart rate very calm, so that the mind can become very calm and so that the mind can learn to focus. And that's in these notes. It says right here, the purpose of quieting the heart is to control the 5 telephones of the nervous system. And that's the switch. It's the magic key, is the heart, and another one's in the medulla. But as you learn to calm down that heart, then you'll learn to be able to switch off the 5 sense telephones. So that was good. We'll move on to the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is, this is from the book Conversations with Yogananda. And some of the monks there were complaining to Paramahansa the balance that we do have to look at our diet and make sure that it's good. And on the other side, we have to not worry about it and give our life to God. And I will go more deeply. And please bless me that I can overcome my liking for good food. And Master said to Swamiji, and I quote, "There is so little outwardly that you as a yogi can legitimately enjoy that you might as well enjoy what you eat." And that is very, very comforting for all of us yogis. So we don't need to worry about the little things. And I do consider actually food as one of the little things on the spiritual path. And this is going to be my last class on this. And the reason is because I have higher things to teach. I have higher things that I myself want to explore, that I am learning to explore the realm of energy. I'm learning to explore the realm of the mind, and I'm learning to make it real to myself that I'm actually a body of energy, and that I'm not this physical body. And that this physical body is governed by, again, I apologize that we couldn't send these links to you earlier. But obviously we had technical problems, but it's a great joy to be here with all of you again. And I thank all of the tech people there behind the scenes that are helping. So thanks to everyone. Okay, so now we're going to the fact that you are not that little physical body that thinks that it needs food, that you are energy. And I just want to bring up again the energization exercises, that they are so important. It's a very hard mental shift to make that I'm not this physical body, that I'm made out of energy. But if you can learn to live more on the energization exercises, it will easily help you make that mental shift. That there was some people in Pune, and when lockdown started, they all made a little WhatsApp group, and they made a pact to energize more. If you'd been energizing 1 day per week, to energize 2 days per week. If you've been energizing 2, then do 3. And my last fast there on Thursday, I energized 3 times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I felt so great. And so this is a slow process for us to learn that we're made of energy. But please do it, and do it in your own way and in your own time. And you have time. You have an infinite amount of time to grow spiritually. So don't feel that there's pressure ever. Feel that God has given you time to become who you are in your way. Okay, I'm going to start with, tonight's a night for lots of honesty. I swore that Master said that an imbalance in the Irda and Pingala is the root cause of all diseases. And I searched for about 2 hours through all the Ananda literature and I couldn't find it. So either I made that up or it was in an audio recording of his and I haven't had the time to search through those. So I found a quote that I feel still is, it says about the same thing, and this is from Jyotish book, and I'll just read a little bit here. It says that when the life force flows strongly and harmoniously, the result is wellness. When it is diminished, unbalanced, or blocked, we feel unwell, depressed, or out of sorts. Eventually, an imbalance in the flow of life force, which is the root cause of disease, will result in physical or psychological symptoms, although this may take some time. So this is truth. Even though I didn't find the exact quote I wanted, Jyotish basically said the same thing here. This is from his book, 30-Day Essentials for Wellness. And so the root cause for any disease we have is energy is blocked or it's not in harmony in the body. And if we can start to learn to feel energy in the body, that we can learn to correct things on an even higher level than diet or than a physical level. Swamikriyananda said that the medical technology that we have today, that in 100 years from now, it's going to look like witchcraft. Meaning, like when people used to put leeches on each other and suck blood and think that that was going to make them more healthy or something. That's how they're going to look at the way we're doing things today. Because people are going to understand that everything is made of energy. And there will be, machines that work on our energy. I was going to share this so that you could read along with me, but I'll just read it. These are words from Paramahansa Yogananda. And so this is called Food in the Future. The future food of the world will all come by receiving different rays from cosmic energy, cosmic rays, electrons, atoms, and air drawn through different openings in the body. If one constantly keeps his mind concentrated upon the point between the eyebrows and sees there the spiritual eye and commands it to recharge the body with strength, it will do so. By doing this, people will cease to grow old. I may talk more about that more later. This is important. Drawing energy from the cerebrum and the medulla by connecting the tip of the big tongue with the little tongue, the uvula. I'll talk more about that, but that's Khechari Mudra. But I think here even, this is what I call baby Khechari Mudra. Just even getting your tongue back there a little bit will help you learn to feel this flow of life force, and it greatly increases the flow of life force. And this is, again, a big yogi secret. Tonight's not the time to go into it, but if you're interested, we will teach you in the right time, in the right way. Next, Master writes that energy may be drawn from the sun by covering the whole body with a piece of thick blue silk or a blanket and keeping the medulla exposed with the sun shining there on the back of the head. And remember, the medulla is the mouth of God. That this is the physical mouth where we eat the physical food, but the mouth of God is where we draw the energy in. And you'll get it in the notes. It's a fun little thing that you can do. You cover your body with a piece of wool or a piece of silk, and it will help. Then the sun rays won't be penetrating and going into all of the body, and you'll feel that then your body's trying to suck all of that energy through the medulla, and it will help you feel that. And this is an important thing to get in tune with. Master gave all these little strange little experiments that you can do. And he said, even if you do 1% of what I tell you, I believe it was 1%, that you will find God in this incarnation. So trying all these silly little things like covering your body with a blanket and going out in the sun and trying to feel sensitively the sun striking your medulla, you're raising your percentage. You'll get close to that 1%, and then one day you'll make it. So that's definitely a fun one to try. Also, Master here talks about taking a sun bath, and I'll read it. Take a sun bath and concentrate deeply upon the sun-bathed surface of the body, and drink the sunshine in through every pore of the body. Concentration upon the sun rays gives 100 times greater results than taking a sun bath absent-mindedly. Gives 100% or 100 times greater results. Let's get our mind on this. If you just go out in the sun and you get some sun, you'll get healthy. You'll get some vitamin D. If you go out in the sun and you're consciously trying to draw those rays and realizing that the sun up there is sustaining all of life, and you start feeling that, it's going to be 100 times more powerful. Remember that. I do this every day when I energize in the sun on my balcony, that I'm grateful to the sun, and I'm consciously bringing those energy rays into the physical body and realizing that within your body, thousands of suns and moons do shine, and that the sun knows that, and that it's recharging every single body cell of the 27 trillion body cells that you have. Each one is intelligent and is drinking that sunshine if you ask them to. The next is Master just talking about the atomic power in oxygen, and how when we do double breathing, that we can become aware that we are bringing in atomic power. When you do Kriya, that you are bringing in that oxygen. It's a carrier for life force. And when you start fully oxygenating the blood, that then the extra energy is added to your body's energy, to your life force. And it's a powerful thing. And it doesn't have to be Kriya. Double breathing, anything, deep breathing helps you understand that. But then Kriya helps you understand that very, very deeply. So next, I'll go into the quality of foods. And I was going to have you read them along with me, but I'll just read them slowly here. The first is bananas, and that has a spiritual quality. Each one of these foods, everything is made out of vibration, out of energy, and everything vibrates at a certain frequency in a certain way. And so bananas, we didn't know it, but they vibrate in a certain way that they give a quality of calmness and humility. And so if we think we have a big ego, one thing could be to start to eat more bananas. I wouldn't put all of your energy into that way to find God, to think you'll completely overcome the ego by eating more bananas. But it's interesting to start to tune into these subtle qualities of all of life. So I'll read these qualities out. So bananas were calmness and humility. Pears are peacefulness. And last time we said that if you have a cold, eat nothing but pears. Today, I'm speaking on a level of energy and vibration. And so the body has become inharmonious when it's sick, when you have a cold. And if we energetically bring in pears, they'll make the body peaceful again. Disease, obviously, we all know this, dis-ease. But we want to have ease. We want to have peace. So eat some more pears. Next is grapes, and those give devotion and divine love. Can't have too much of that. Next is cherries, and that quality is cheerfulness. And the next are oranges and lemons, and those banish melancholy and they stimulate the brain. So those bring in more energy. They're a wonderful thing to have when we need more energy. Berries in general will give you purity of thought. Strawberries will give dignity. Raspberries give kind-heartedness. Peaches give selflessness and concern for the welfare of others. Pineapple gives self-assurance. Avocado gives good memory. Coconuts are generally spiritualizing. I really think Master wrote somewhere that's most spiritual of all. I'll take a break in this list just to give a fun fact. And this was another one I searched for, that I swore that Swami said the higher it grows off of the ground, the more spiritual it is, which is fascinating. And then coconuts would be way up there. Again, I couldn't find that quote, so it's not in your notes, but I did find a quote from Master that is in your notes, and this is it word for word, and that is, tree foods are the highest vibrating and most spiritual of all. So it goes along with what was in my memory, but not word for word. But I do think that Swami said that somewhere, that the higher it grows off the ground, the more spiritual it is. And I do believe that Master somewhere wrote that coconuts are the most spiritual of all. Anyway, on this list in your notes from the Raja Yoga book, It says coconuts are generally spiritualizing. Dates give tenderness and sweetness. Figs to soften too strict a sense of discipline. Very interesting. Almonds give sexual self-control, which later this evening I also will talk about, because it's a part of being a controlled being on all level freshness. Sweet corn, mental vitality. Tomatoes give mental strength. Beets give courage. Spinach gives a simple nature. Very interesting. Lettuce, calmness. Cow's milk, enthusiasm and fresh spiritual energy. Egg yolks are rajasic, and they make the energy go outward. Grains, like wheat, or it just says generally, so I'll read it as it is. Grains generally give strength of character, and wheat, which is a grain, gives steadfastness to principle, and unpolished rice gives a quality of mildness. So that is the those qualities there. Fascinating. Again, I urge you to, when I first saw that list, I just thought, I'm not like sensitive enough to be able to tune into these things. I mean, I believe that they're true because Master and Swami said it. And if I'm not sensitive enough to tune in and to feel it, is it really going to matter what I eat? But lately, I'm still striving. And that's all we can do, is keep striving to be more and more sensitive and more aware. And I don't know, even in that striving, that brings me joy. So I'll leave the spiritual qualities at that, and we'll go on to the Gita. And here I find, and I said in the last class that I would bring this up in this class, so I'm happy to keep my word, that Krishna talks a lot about the 3 gunas in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's very important to understand on the spiritual path. It's important to understand in regards to physical food. And it's when you understand the gunas, it's a bridge between the physical food and our energy and the energy that we take in. And so I urge everyone to study the Gita and study what Krishna has said there about the gunas. And right now we'll read what Krishna specifically said about food and the gunas. So I'm going to just read directly. This translation is obviously from Swamiji's Gita. Even, this is chapter 17, sloka 7. Even the taste for food is variously sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. So even the taste for food is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. So also the preferred types of yagya, or sacrifice, the penances, and the ways of almsgiving. Here are these distinctions. Swamiji has a little commentary there. Every taste in food proclaims to some degree a person's level of evolution. So also do his natural predilections regarding spiritual practices. So whatever we're attracted to in food is going to say, well, this is kind of where we are spiritually. And so let's see more what Krishna has to say about this. Foods that promote longevity, vitality, endurance, health, a cheerful attitude, and a good appetite, that are pleasant tasting, mildly flavored, nourishing, and agreeable to the body. Such foods give sattvic enjoyment and are preferred by sattvic people. Foods that are bitter, sour, heavily salted, excessively hot, pungent, sharp tasting, and burning give rajasic enjoyment and are those preferred by people of rajasic temperament. Such foods produce pain, discomfort, and disease. And I'm going to get more into this in a moment because we live in a rajasic world, and I want to start with what Swami said about that. So don't just think, oh my gosh, well, I like things that are a little bit spicy, or I like things that are salted, or whatever. There's a place for it. But the point that I want to make here is Rajas doesn't work. And it promises that it's going to work, and it's so much fun while we're doing it, whether it's food or anything else. But then in the end, we're left with less energy. And just Krishna's words, such foods produce pain, discomfort, and disease. I want to say something about that. It's not going to produce pain and discomfort and disease in the beginning. Nobody would do it. It produces it over long term, 20 years, 30 years. And so if you're planning to live to 100 or longer, we have to think about, do we want to have sattvic foods or do we want to have rajasic foods? The choice is always yours. And I stand in judgment of no man. Only love is there, and we all have to figure all of this out for ourselves. So don't worry wherever you are. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment because I know that Swamiji has some notes down here that I want to read. 1710 is foods that are nutritionally worthless, tasteless, putrid, stale, thrown away as garbage, of course, don't eat those, thrown away as garbage, or otherwise impure, give tamasic enjoyment and are preferred by tamasic people. None of you watching this are tamasic. I'm not even going to say any words about that. But let's see here what Swamiji wrote. Okay. It may be said that sattvic food helps calm the nerves and make them clear channels for the energy flowing into the body and for higher inspiration. This is where this class gets super important, that there's a connection between the physical food we eat and our energy and our energy body. And if we're eating sattvic food, it's going to help clear these nerve channels and help make these clear channels for more energy to flow into the body, for more energy to flow to the brain, so that we can meditate more deeply. But the rajasic foods are going to have this exciting effect on the body, and it will make the energy in the body restless. And I believe all of us, maybe most of us watching this, are trying to meditate more deeply. And so if we eat sattvic food, it will make meditation more easy. And if we eat rajasic food, it will make it more difficult. If you have a very strong mind and strong willpower, you can eat whatever you want. Like that story, maybe some of you weren't here for it, but it was Markat and eating fiery nails. But until we are at that level, that we need to just pay attention. So again, reading more what Swamiji wrote here. Rajasic foods are, as indicated above, excessively stimulating to the life forces in the body, somewhat irritating to the nerves, and exciting in their effect on the mind. I studied this. You guys have no idea how many hours I put into preparing this class. I just learned something. That rajasic foods are going to excite the effect on the mind. I never thought about that. I thought sometimes when I sit in meditation and I'm like, that maybe I've been eating, too much rajasic food, but I never thought when my mind that maybe it's the rajasic food also. Again, I just right now want to say, don't become a food fanatic. Eat what you enjoy, more or less, and you have to balance your whole life. So please don't become a food fanatic. It's no fun. But be aware of this, and then you get to put all the pieces together is the point of all of this. So, and here, this is important. Right here, I need to read this. Okay, I'll back up. Rajasic foods are exciting in their effect on the mind. Not all such stimulation is bad, however. For someone whose life includes intense activity as well as meditation, a certain amount of rajas may be helpful in stirring him to action. Onions, garlic, and eggs are examples of rajasic foods that may prove beneficial for sattvic people who also need to be busily active. I'm not even going to go into the eggs thing. He writes more about it. We did enough on that last time. It's all good. Anyway, there you have it. If you need to eat some garlic and onions and eggs because you have lots of work to do in this world, it's fine. And I consider myself in that category. That I'll tell a brief story. Again, for those who came a little later, we have no idea how long this is going to last. Time is just going to be what it's going to be this evening. So now with that, I already forgot the story here. What was the story? It was, oh yes, this is it. It was that when I first met Swamiji, I wanted to go off to the Himalayas and just be a hermit and just meditate and just, only eat the sattvic foods and just, that's all I'm going to do is meditate. And I told Swamiji this. And he said to me, Master, Paramahansa Yogananda, told Swamiji, so Swamiji said, Master said to me, your life is going to be one of intense activity and meditation. And then Swamiji, in a laughing way, said to me, and he did put intense activity first in the sequence of intense activity and meditation. And he paused for a dramatic moment. And then Swamiji said, and well, you have come to me. Meaning that my life too probably is going to be one of intense activity and meditation will be put secondarily. And there you have it. I can eat some onions and garlic. So probably a lot of us, it's just of a jostle time. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And so that is what it is. Okay, let's keep moving on here. So that was the Gita, chapter 17, stanzas 7 through 17. I'm going to break up the Gita here with a fun story. And this is with Rajarsi and Master. And so Rajarsi, if he felt a cold was coming on, that he would drink nothing but strained grapefruit juice. I'm just going to say it. The reason in this book, I took this from a book called Trilogy of Divine Love. I feel that if you just type that into Google, you can find a PDF. I think it's available online. Highly recommend reading this book. It's all about the relationship between two great souls, Rajarsi and Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's these intimate stories of how these two would go back and forth. Like highly personal and just very enjoyable. You wonder, what is it like on the inside of a great master's life? So Rajarsi, he would only drink strained grapefruit because he could feel the cells bursting in his stomach. And he was even so highly advanced that if there was some little piece of food that he didn't like or wasn't working, even mixed in with the rest of a meal, he could regurgitate that little piece of food and get rid of it. Anyways, it's all in this book. It's interesting, weird yogi stuff. But back to this grapefruit juice. So if he had a cold, he would just drink grapefruit juice for 2 or 3 days. And now Master said that this isn't quite right, that if the cold has already come, that you should not drink the grapefruit juice later, because it will cut the phlegm, but it irritates the sinus cavity and it won't be helpful. But what Master wrote here is, if the mind is extremely bent on a certain food during an illness, and if taken in reasonable quantity, it will come out well. And so he was saying, Rajarsi, even if, and interesting thing for you to figure out, I actually meant to put this in the mental section, which we'll come to, and not the energy section, because at the end then it's in your mind, and we'll get into that. So I'll get into that later. Anyway, I'm going to say this, that Rajarsi actually, it's said that he got a little bit too fanatical about his diet, and if you read in that book, and so Master wrote him letters saying, eat more food, don't take too many juices, that your stomach needs things that to just kind of chew on and work. It keeps the stomach strong and the fire going strong there. The same the jaws and all of these muscles that they need to work. And these are just interesting things to read. So they'll be there in your notes, and you can look up that book. I highly recommend it. It's a fun one. Back to the Gita. This is the 4th chapter, stanza 30. Some regulating the flow of energy in the body by correct diet. I'm stopping right there. That's pretty important, I think. Some regulating the flow of energy in the body by correct diet. Just, okay. Offering all their energies into the fire of that upward flow. Offer all their energies upward into that flow. All the above seekers understand the meaning of self-offering, the inner fire which consumes the seeds of all karma. That's a deep shloka. I'd love to go deep into it in Kriya, but I won't do that this evening. But I will read what Swamiji wrote here. When the prana and apana are neutralized in breathlessness, the body is sustained by a higher cosmic energy. What happens is that the body's energy is then connected directly to the medulla oblongata, by which connection the energy flows directly from a higher source, sustaining the body cells from within. That's all I'm going to read. Basically, it's going back to, if you get balance in the Irda and Pingala and can start living more on this higher energy, that then ultimately the body can be completely sustained by that. all of us, we are in a process of learning how to go from a physical consciousness, from being sustained on physical food, to learning how to be sustained on that. And I just want to emphasize this is a process. This is not a 1 week get perfect seminar or something like that. That this is going to take our entire lifetime to learn to live more on cosmic energy. And even that, I have a Brahmachari friend. He met this yogi who lived on sunshine for a year or something like that. To me, that's not the goal of the spiritual path. The goal is to learn to love God. But having some understanding of energy will be a helpful thing in learning to love God more deeply. So again, there's more on this in your notes. And I think we should move on here. So, yes. This is important in understanding your physical body and the astral body. I'm just going to read. The nerves of the main passages of life force, the nerves are the main passages of life force in the body. They correspond to the subtler, more refined nadis of the astral body. Ordinarily, the nerve passages of the human body are clogged with toxins owing to wrong diet and are impaired in their functioning by unnatural living. Because man seeks stimulation from outside himself, instead of drawing on his inner spiritual resources, he vitiates the nerves, which grow tired and become diminishingly responsive to the very things people look to for stimulation. And so the point that I wanted to bring up here is that the more we can learn to live, to seek our joy on the inside instead of seeking it on the outside. And so that's not only food, it's all the rest of the other four senses. The more we can learn to find that joy on the inside, the more this nervous system is going to be freed up to draw even more than energy, which is used to experience more and more joy. And I also wanted to point out that we have a physical nervous system, and the doctors, of course, can go in and even operate these days on those nerves, but those correspond to an astral body and an energy body, and we can learn to purify the nervous system on the physical level, and it will help the astral level. So that's enough about that. Next is another just fun, interesting thing here. This is talking about the fact that these things, they're so high that sometimes it's like, can I really do this? And is this, first of all, even really true? Anyway, I'll read it and then I'll discuss that. In more advanced ages, man will be able to give up even such refined foods as fruits and nuts and live directly from the inner energy, even as certain highly evolved souls have been known to do in our time. And here, I'll tell you how this is done. Okay, fruit, as we have said in step 10, is the most sattvic or spiritual of all foods. Compared to subtler forms of energy, however, even fruit is gross. Advanced yogis and mystics of various religions have been known to go for long periods of time without physical food. Here's the point. It is not that they went without sustenance, but only that they knew how to draw energy from the atmosphere, from the sun's rays, and from the prana, or cosmic energy in the surrounding universe. So these energization exercises that many people from Ananda do, that they are important, that they're going to teach you how to do these things. And, you know, even if we can't believe that there's people out there who go without eating for a year or something like that, we could believe that we can learn to live a little bit more on energy and a little bit less on food. And I think that's way more important than all of these, I don't know, highly crazy things. So that to me is another important point that I want to make this evening, is be honest with yourself where you are and try to just make little baby steps in trying to learn to live more on whatever your next step is to advance. I think that's just the best way to put it, and I think that's the most important. thing too. So I said I would, well, maybe I said, I don't know. I just want to reemphasize that Khechari Mudra is really important. And it's another one of these mystical things, but that we can learn how to do, and that can help us learn to go for long periods of time without food, to learn how to draw more of this energy and do all that stuff. So it's something we teach at Ananda, and I just wanted to reemphasize that it's not so weird, that there are techniques and that it is possible. Okay. Okay. I see lots of people are joining and not joining, and we still might be having technical problems, but I appreciate you. Just keep trying to join, and if it gets so frustrating, the recording will be there. So I just appreciate everyone's patience this evening. Is that all I can say from that? So, yes. I said I would talk about these three aspects: the food itself, the consciousness we have while we're eating it, and then the surrounding kind of energy atmosphere. It's well known that most yogis, they would say, go to a restaurant. I'm not going to a restaurant with worldly vibrations where everyone's eating there and they're thinking all these worldly things, that's going to influence my consciousness. And while we eat, we are more open to receiving vibrations of consciousness. But Swamiji told us it's okay to go to restaurants, but go with another person. Don't go alone. And I've had all kinds of, I've lived life in this incarnation. I've had to travel and eat and just be places where I needed to eat. And I was in a restaurant and I was alone, and that's what I could do. But I really could pay attention to the consciousness surrounding me, and we all just do the best that we can. But anyway, if you have to go to a restaurant, it's nice if you can go with your family or with other people who have your own consciousness, and it will help protect you. And the highest thing is our own consciousness. And if we really can have a high consciousness that we're very peaceful, that all is God, and that if we could be offering that joy of eating up to God, that this is the highest thing. So strive to have a higher consciousness. And I feel, I do it all the time, that eating is a wonderful way to obtain a higher consciousness. Because this is kind of personal. I've talked about it sometimes, but very often when I'm in seclusion, or even the monastery is kind of all different now. That's fine. This is Gopara Yoga and things are shifting, but we used to all eat in silence. And I would make it a real practice to just believe that my guru was eating every bite that I was eating. And if there was something I was really enjoying it, to really watch and make sure that that joy stayed inward, and to say, I offer this joy up to you, and then I'm doing this with you, and try to eat with that consciousness. And that is way more important than what we are eating. So I just really wanted to emphasize that. And it doesn't mean we can ignore some of the other rules and everything, but do try to eat with an uplifted consciousness. Do enjoy your food and try to enjoy it with God. So I'm going to move on now. This again is from the Precepta Lessons. And I'm just going to read a little bit. These are Master's words. Food is nothing but condensed atomic energy. The action of the chemical, vital, and mental forces upon the stomach and intestines change food into energy. It is this energy which externally repletes the body wave of life. I highlighted that quote and I found it so interesting to, number one, think that food itself is condensed atomic energy, but then that there's actions going on within our body that utilize that energy. But I really highlighted this for these 4 or 5 words, whatever it is. It's this energy that repletes the body wave of life. We think of ourselves as a physical flesh, but really this is just, it's waves of energy, the body waves of energy. And it's nice to think of ourselves as these waves of energy, and that the food that we're eating is replenishing and giving life, giving this force to these other forces. And it's just a fun way of being and thinking about things. So again, I'm just going to read a few more quotes here from Master. God's energy is holding your body together. You must know how to connect your willpower with God's energy in your body. Think about that and learn how to connect your own willpower with God's energy in your body. Here's something, I have no idea, but I did a satsang for Kolkata last night, and one young man was on his phone and apparently walking home from work, and we were doing double breathing, but he was doing walking. And I told him this is one of my favorite exercises, double breathing while walking, or not double breathing, but even count breathing while walking. So I'm going to read this to you, how it's done, and it's in the notes that you're getting tonight so that you can know how to do this. It's a powerful exercise. It will give you big, strong lungs. It will help you be able to bring more oxygen into your body so that you can utilize that energy that comes from oxygen. While walking every day, slowly inhale while counting 1 to 12. Hold the breath for 12 counts, then exhale while counting 1 to 12. Do this 24 times every day you go out for a walk. This is just, it's so wonderful to do. You'll learn so much. I'm just going to share a little personal experience here. Even if you're walking up a little tiny hill, my counts will go down to like 6, that I can only inhale. And I do it with the counts, like every time you take a step, you'll get into this rhythm and you'll mentally count 1, 2 with your steps as you're inhaling, and then you're holding, and then you're exhaling. If I'm walking down a hill, I can easily do 12 counts or more. And flat, I can do what Master said here, these 12 counts things. But you realize how much more oxygen your body needs, even if you walk up just a gentle, gentle hill. And this might not maybe so gentle on the screen there, but you'll start realizing how the oxygen and energy in your body, how these correlate that I've been talking about. You'll have your own experience of it. So even if we do Kriya or whatever, and we're not really experiencing, not knowing how does my body need oxygen, you'll understand it right away. And your lungs will get healthier, your body will get healthier. So do that exercise, it's really fun. And again, the topic of this was how do we get energy from exercise? That's how you do it. I'm going to read this too because it's interesting. Every time you move your hand, you are producing an electric current, and all the ether is filled with cosmic light. Because you do not see it, does not mean that it does not exist. It is that light which is giving you life. Just as ships are being operated by radio without any crew, we might say drones these days, just as ships are being operated by radio without any crew, so God is pouring energy into your body. The fingers are marvelous things. They are your antenna, and you can very often feel the energy flowing into them. Become more sensitive, experiment, learn how to use your antenna and make your hands more sensitive. Learn how to feel. In this, Master says, I'm going to now give you the methods on how you can feel more energy. And I'm not going to go into that tonight, but anywhere in Ananda Sangha you can connect to, that we will teach you the methods on how you can learn to live more by energy and how you can learn how to feel more sensitively energy in your body and in the world around you. And then comes rejuvenation through meditation. Last of all, man should depend more and more upon the limitless, more and more upon the limitless supply of the inner source of cosmic consciousness, and less upon the other sources of body energy. By constantly holding the peaceful after effects of meditation in mind, by feeling immortality in the body, by believing in eternal life instead of beholding the illusory changes of life, and by feeling the ocean of immortal bliss, God, underlying the changeable waves of the experiences of past lives and the waves of perceptions of childhood, youth, and age in this life, the soul can find not only perpetual rejuvenation in the soul, but also in the body. Just as soon as the body is found to be not isolated from spirit, but a number of rising and falling waves of vibrating currents in the ocean of cosmic consciousness, then the perpetual rejuvenation of the spirit can be implanted in the body if so desired. This is the highest thing. I'm just going to talk about it for a moment. I want you to please study this paragraph when you get your notes. I mean, it's immortality, and it's how to do it, and it's where it comes from. But beyond immortality, and perhaps one day I can give another class on that. It's a fascinating topic. It is really fascinating. The perpetual rejuvenation of the spirit can be implanted in the body if so desired. Can you imagine if you had the power to say, well, I'll keep my body for 200 years. Or, no, it's time for me to let it go and merge back into the astral world or beyond. That's a whole different thing than just you're on the wheels of fate and you're just not even sure when it's going to grind you down into the grave. It's a whole different world. For some reason, often joke about this, but you might meet someone who says, "Oh, I could have been a doctor. I didn't really want to." And mentally, you might think, "No, you couldn't. You don't have the concentration. You don't have the determination. You don't have the intellect. No, you couldn't." And I mean, there are some people who could be a doctor and they don't choose to. But the point that I'm making here with this little bit of joking around is you having the power of choice. And Master making this power of choice up to levels that we didn't even dream was possible. That we just say, oh, well, it's if God wills it, which is true. But imagine that you're co-creating with God and that you're in there in the driver's seat with God and able to say, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to hold on to my body for quite a while? Do you want me to let it go? And I'm not making this stuff up. That I've gone to Europe and seen bodies of saints that are incorruptible. If you get bored, it's a very fun Google search to do, incorruptible bodies. But I believe to this day, Master's body at Forest Lawn is incorrupt. That when he lived the incarnation as Fernando in Spain, they pull that body out every year, even though it's like 500 years old or I don't know exactly what. And the Catholic Church does whatever they do with it. But the point is, this is possible. I could go way in more to this topic, but that is for another class. You guys ask for it, I'll give it on immortality. I love it. It's a very fun subject, very interesting. All right, we're starting to wind down a little bit here. It's 8:20. The reason I don't know when we're going to end is because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do questions here, and I might try. But I'm going to speak here for magnetism and mind for at least maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll just see where we are in terms of time. So you know your physical body. It's a delusion, and we're trying to overcome it. But we all know that it's there and it exists. We now are starting to have an awareness of energy. And please meditate deeply and become more and more aware that you are energy. You're made of light. You are light. And take these teachings seriously. So we talked a little bit about energy. We talked about how food and energy go together and what we eat can help us become more aware of energy and learning to live more on energy through the energization exercises. But now we're going to talk about that third aspect of your being, your causal body, and that is the part of you that is made of mind. And in fact, mind is superior to energy and physical matter. Mind governs energy. It's actually mind that takes this little container, this form, and tells the energy vibrate like this and this, but just stay in that form. And it's the mind that has set that pattern. And if we can release that mind, we can release this energy pattern. Which don't be afraid of that. But it's mind that's holding everything together ultimately. And we want to learn how to have a strong mind. Today we're going to talk about mind in regards to food and diet. So first is just a little powerful quote here from Master. And it's just, he's saying, resurrect your soul from the dream of frailties. Resurrect your soul in eternal wisdom. What is the method? Relaxation, self-control, right diet, right fortitude, and an undaunted attitude of the mind. And so this is where, yes, he said right diet there, so he included it, but an undaunted attitude of the mind. Sometimes when I sit to meditate, I just say, I don't care what happens. I'm just going to sit here. And then I made up my mind and I'm just going to sit here. And it's important to do that sometimes and in all aspects. And it's very important on the physical plane to make up your mind what you're going to do about food. Sometimes just tell yourself, I'm just going to eat whatever. Today's my fun day. And that's what it is. And other times we can make up the mind that I say that I'm going to do this particular kind of fast or eat this particular kind of food and I'm going to do it for this amount of time. And make up your mind and then do it. And your mind will become very strong and you will learn things. So I'm going to go now to something that's not in your notes. These are unpublished. I'm not allowed to share them. But I'm sharing them verbally here. But I can't give them to you written form. So let's pay attention and let's see what's going to happen here. It's going to take me a moment to find these notes. These are from a talk that Master gave. Here we are. We're just gonna have a little fun here for a moment. So I'm pretend you're listening to Master. These are his words. You must remove the causes of disease. Exercise more. Don't lose your sex vitality. And eat the right kinds of food and don't think too much of it. Don't make a god of food. If you talk of beef, you become beefy. If you talk of chicken, you become chicken-hearted. And if you talk of nuts, you know what happens. You will get nutty. Oh, I ate a little more of this and I have a little biliosis now. Give the body to God. Take no heed for the body and what ye shall eat or what ye shall put on. This is what Christ taught. I used to be a food fanatic myself. Beyond a certain point, nothing helps. But it is true that by healthy diet, you can free yourself of disease. 75% of your trouble will disappear. Anyway, I enjoy tuning into Master's consciousness through his words. But I did say this evening we would talk a little bit about self-control. And there is a relationship between self-control in food and sexuality. And I'm not going to go deeply into it tonight. But try to exercise self-control on that plane also. Because we could get so fanatical trying to have a healthy body and exercise perfect self-control on the level of food, but be out of balance on some other part of our life over here, and then we're still not going to have a healthy body. And I will just tell you very honestly and clearly that controlling the sexuality, sex force within the body, the life force, the sexual fluid, that it will give you great physical strength, it will give you great mental clarity. It's obviously difficult to control. Again, that's for other classes. And I want you to kind of figure this out for yourself. There is a connection between food and sexuality. Just to throw out a fun little tidbit on that the second chakra, we talk about turning off the five senses, the sense telephones, as Master called them. The second chakra, the sense of is the sense of taste. It's a very interesting thing. You can meditate more on these things and think about it. I felt that I had a little dharma to just bring it up and mention it. So, also, I've highlighted on these notes that I can't share. This is important here, so please do listen. By mental sensitivity, disease is greatly heightened. If your mind takes to the consciousness of disease, your disease will be greatly heightened. Greatly increased. And many diseases come and go because you don't know about them. However, one must not be a fanatic. It is best to take some measure of care of the body, but certainly dependence on the mind and giving the body to God will help you. Food faddists become cranky. They forget to meditate on God. Jesus said, destroy this body, and I shall build it again in 3 days. Can health faddists say that? The health faddist says, I didn't get enough nuts and I don't feel good, or I didn't have an avocado today. my spine feels weak. So basically, we're getting into this again. Don't become a fanatic. But this here is the way that I'm approaching this COVID-19. That it's best to take some measure of care of the body, but certainly dependence on the mind and giving the body to God will help you. It's like that the world out there is going crazy, so I'm trying to take some measure of care in all of that. But then my highest measure of protection is God, and really paying attention to my mind and what thoughts I'm thinking and what am I tuning into daily. And to me, that's the higher protection. And so do pay attention to what thoughts that you're thinking. Learn to control them. Okay, so that's enough on the notes that I'm not allowed to share. So we can go back to notes that I am allowed to share. And these will be in your notes from the book, How to Be a Success. So let me go and let me find those. I've gotten a little confused here in my notes. Give me 1 second. Okay. Mind and magnetism. Treta Yuga is an age of magnetism. Treta Yuga is an age of mind. We are living in Dwapara Yuga. Dwapara Yuga is an age of energy. It's important, if you want to become highly advanced in this incarnation, to understand the connection between magnetism and mind. It's not enough to just say that your thoughts are magnetism, but they produce magnetism. There's other aspects to magnetism also, and those are your feelings. And you will truly understand magnetism when you understand the connection between your thoughts and your feelings, and your ability to receive subtle thoughts and how this whole world is put together by thoughts. But here, this is fascinating. I'm going to read some quotes on how your physical diet will impact your magnetism. So again, these are master's words. You must pay attention to your diet. Raw food produces magnetism. Coconut produces lots of magnetism. Beets, spinach, and lettuce are full of vitality and give you magnetism. Too much meat causes you to lose your magnetism because animal magnetism tampers with your spiritual magnetism. Meat causes you to concentrate upon the physical plane too much, and you tend to attract physical companions instead of spiritual ones. Meat also produces abnormal sex life. If you eat a little bit of meat, it won't hurt you. But if you make a habit of eating it daily, it will destroy your magnetic qualities. Eat good meat substitutes, more nuts, and nut meat combinations. So again, even physical things that we eat can help us spiritually, help us achieve more magnetism. There's higher ways to achieve magnetism by the practices that we teach. And I urge you to start with that. Don't try to just think that you can become highly magnetic by eating coconut. It will help. But if you do something like a lot of Mahamudra, that's going to make your spine full of energy. And that energy will create a lot of magnetism. That's a much higher thing than eating coconut. And so that's why this is the last of these classes, is that I can concentrate on the higher ways to help people develop magnetism. But everything is interrelated, and we are learning how everything is interrelated. And here's the importance of taking a class like this and basing it not on my own opinion, but on what Master has said, what Swamiji has said, is that you get to learn how did they put all of these pieces together? How do they know what is the most important? That if you wanted, let's say you came up to a beautiful castle and all of these beautiful gardens and just this wonderful paradise on earth, and you just entered in through the front gate. You could explore all of that on your own and go to the zoo and see all these wonderful animals, or you could go straight into the castle and ask to meet the king, the owner of all of it, and ask him, can you show me all of your beautiful gardens and everything? Then he'll show you in the right percentage. Oh, you should spend this amount of time with the roses, but spend that amount of time seeing the giraffes, and here, come see this rug I got from Persia or whatever with this beautiful thing that it does this in the light or whatever. But the point of this little silly story is he'll show you in right percentage. And bringing that back to the topic, Master will tell you how much of your energy to dedicate to going and searching and finding coconut to eat tomorrow versus how much should you do Mahamudra and how important is right company and on and on. He'll help you put it all together. So that's the importance of having spiritual teachers. So that was from How to Be a Success. Another this is from the book, The New Path again. You know, that when Swami first came on the path, I'm just going to read this. I normally don't speak by reading so much, and I apologize for reading so much, but I just feel that Swami just says this so beautifully. So this is when Swami was new on the path, and he wasn't sure what he was going to do. So he writes, was there any way out of my psychological labyrinth? And in the mind, we're trying to realize that we are one with God and that we're not all of this nonsense and that food's not that important. And so Swami wrote, was there any way out of my psychological labyrinth? Even on a physical level, the possibilities for self-improvement seemed bewilderingly complex. I read in a magazine advertisement the names of several famous people who had been vegetarians. Vegetarians? Was it really desirable or even possible to live without eating meat? This was Swamiji growing up in America before he met Master, and that would be the consciousness any average American would have at that age and that time. Again, I read somewhere else that white flour is harmful to health. White flour? Swamiji writes, heretofore a hamburger on a white bun, decorated with a thin sliver of tomato and a limp wisp of lettuce, had been my ideal of a balanced meal. It seemed now that there were all sorts of opinions on even so basic a subject as diet. Finally, bewildered by the sheer number of choices before me, I decided there could be but one way out of my imperfections. God. I must let Him guide my life. And so this is Yogic Diet Part 2, but this is the spiritual side of things. And this is the highest understanding that we're trying to come to, that we have to let God guide our life, and the little decisions and the big decisions and the putting it all together decisions. So I'm just deciding whether I'm going to read or paraphrase. I'll paraphrase here because we're going beyond the time we had said that we were going to say. But this was my closing. If I was a lawyer, it'd be my closing argument. But I'm not a lawyer. It's the closing words and thoughts and feelings that I really wanted to leave everyone with on the subject of diet, on energy, on magnetism, mind. And so this first paragraph here, it's at the end of your notes, is just Swamiji again talking about many people make such a religion of their diet that they actually weaken the most important element in good health, the mind. And then he says it's best to eat as well as one can, conveniently, and then forget it. And from my own personal experience, I found this is best. Just make up some diet that's as good as it can be, and then forget it. And try to rely more on a positive attitude and a healthy, cheerful outlook on life that's saying that ultimately it's God who's digesting all of this food and who's doing everything, and that this is what God has given me for the day, and to be very happy about it. And then to just move on to these higher aspects of life. Move on to becoming a Kriyaban and learning how to do Kriya sensitively and well. When you start getting the joy from Kriya, food just doesn't, it's there, all right. Thank you, God. I offer it back to you. You know, there's another point here that he makes so beautifully. If you try to arrange cushions on a chair in such a way to make yourself perfectly comfortable, you'll never succeed in finding the best arrangement. And it's just the same with the health of the body. That if you try to make it just I didn't get the carrot today, or I got this, or I didn't, then you just start getting the wrong mental thing of, oh my God, I didn't get my carrot today. And it's much better to just, okay, it came, okay, it didn't. And to just forget it. Choose something good and forget it. It's only within that perfection can be found. So that analogy of the cushions on the couch was just really good to me. That, yeah, I could always try to make it perfect, but just do the best you can and forget it. And then the last paragraph here, the strong mind draws energy to the body, keeping it well, even under the most appalling circumstances. Have you noticed that? That there's sometimes people have a terrible diet, but they're really healthy, and that comes between two ways. One, they don't have enough mental capacity to realize that they're getting a bad diet, and so because they don't have a negative mindset, they're healthy anyways. And the other is that they're on this higher level of awareness, if they have a strong enough mind, they say, okay, diet's not perfect, but I'm made of mind, I'm made of energy, I'm going to be well anyways. And it's interesting how evolution spirals upward, where you start off with that healthy body many incarnations ago, and it's mainly healthy because you just don't even think about it or know much about it. And then we go through this long spiral circle journey, and we come back to that same place where even if we're eating unhealthy again, it's all right, because we know everything's made of mind, and that we know that it's the healthy mind that can control everything. So eat well and forget it. Be cheerful in your mind, and all other things being equal, you will seldom find anything physically wrong with you. So I'm going to now open it up to questions. I'm terrified of this. Not the question part, but the technology part, because it was my fault that we sent you a wrong link. I started pressing some buttons and I ruined that first link. So I'm very scared to press buttons here, but we can try this for a few minutes. That if you want to write any little question in there, I do see chat things coming up on the chat, and I'm scared to scroll around in there. But if you ask some questions, I can do my best to answer them. I'm happy to do this for about 10 minutes, and then I think we should end. We started 20, we can end 20 minutes late, and we can say it's a perfect, beautiful world, even though it's a little off in some ways, but it can end well. So, good. So someone wrote, what did the master say about consuming fish? In Autobiography of a Yogi, Lahiri Mahashaya eats fish. And he says to someone who's looking, and he's saying, look, I'm eating the fish. So what master said about that is, if you're going to eat some form of meat, make it fish or chicken. It actually has to do with the level of that animal's evolution. And once Swami jokingly said, it's not that much more evolved than a vegetable. It is not that smart and aware, and so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I personally don't, but if you feel the need, and then also maybe you could make it once a week or twice a week or something like that. But don't make too big of a deal of it. If you feel that you need to do that, it's okay. You know, even when you kill a plant to eat it, you're killing it. And it is conscious. Plants are happy to be killed because they feel that they've gone through their evolutionary cycle, and that they are, like, that's what they were born to do, to help more higher evolved animals do things like that. My internet is unstable. I think it said my internet was unstable. I think it looks like it's stable again. I'm gonna ask one helper here to just drive. Just give rid of that so I can read these. Thanks. Okay. I hope we're back and we're good. Good. Someone asked, are there any guidelines on timing of eating? Absolutely. That sun up there, that it's moving, and when it's at the highest up above, about 12 noon, that's when energy is going to be flowing the most strongly in your physical body, and that's when to eat the heaviest and the biggest meal. Eat less at night. Again, it comes back to carbon, that if you take a lot of carbon in, you're going to be breathing deeply. You won't be able to sleep peacefully. So eat lightly in the evening. I try to eat a light breakfast, a heavy lunch, and a light dinner. It doesn't always work that way. We very well may have a heavy dinner tonight. Who knows? But try to pay attention to the energy from the sun, and then make your diet go along with that. Uh, there's many books that have been written on that in Ayurveda. I always urge people to read The Art and Science of Raja Yoga. Swamiji speaks extensively about that as well. And I see many more questions coming, so I'm not going to say more about that. I'll move on to the next question, which is, what about eggs? Please watch the last video. I went deeply into eggs because they're this huge thing in India of, is it vegetarian, is it not? In Autobiography of a Yogi, Master swears up and down it is vegetarian. I talked a little bit about sexuality tonight. Master also said eggs are one of the worst things you can eat while practicing sexual self-control. On the flip side, they're a nice thing that it just has almost all the vitamins and minerals that the body needs, and will help keep it healthy and strong if we're not paying attention to a balanced diet. So I might eat eggs once a month. I don't even remember the last time I ate an egg. But I try, and I do that more out of not wanting to be fanatical. Of just, Swamiji ate eggs, Master ate eggs, I eat eggs, but I don't eat them that often. And again, it's a personal thing for you. But both Master and Swami ate eggs. In the reading I did tonight in Swamiji's Gita, he called it one of the Rajasic things, similar to onions and garlic. And then we live in a Rajasic world, and we need some Rajas. So I'm going to move on. You know, I have to think. Someone asked, is it possible to share the Yogic Diet Part 1 notes? I have to think about that. The reason why I have this heart that just, I didn't want to give everybody everything for free, but we set up the last thing where the people who paid got those notes. You know what? You paid for this? Yes. Now, then that also gets to a organizational thing that I need to like write it down, or I hope some of the organizers from Kolkata are listening, and if we could please go through these notes again. Let me just write your name down. I don't want to embarrass anyone by saying their names when I'm not supposed to. We'll send that to you. I've written down your name, and so we'll send that to you. What about tea and coffee? Tea and coffee are like totally not recommended by yogis because they're super rajasic. It's like a stimulating drug. It becomes addictive. And I'm laughing so deeply because swamikriyananda drank coffee, I think, every day. And once someone from Europe said, Swami, you wrote in the Raja Yoga book, if you're a yogi, don't take tea and coffee, and you're drinking tea and coffee every day. And Swami said, God told me I could. And the man, okay. There's nothing you can say to that. When you're very highly evolved, you can do whatever you want. And when you're not evolved at all, you do whatever you want. We're somewhere in between, and so do the best you can. And, you know, there was one saint I used to visit, and I would drink tea in his presence. He would say, drink the tea, it's Amrit. And he was so much more highly evolved than me. I felt it again was helping me not be too rule bound. And so I would drink chai with him. But usually I don't. But anyway, let's go on to some other questions. I've always wondered what the spiritual quality of mangoes were. I wonder so much. Master never told us. And even that, I wonder why. They definitely have to have some spiritual quality. I don't know what it is, but I love them. Yes, we'll share the food chart. When you get the notes, the food chart is on there. So what else here? Okay, everyone's asking, please send the notes for part 1. So we'll figure that out. We'll send it. You've given us, us means Ananda Kolkata energy, and Ananda Kolkata is passing that on to the monastery. We all appreciate that. And we're just going to give that energy right back. So we'll make sure that everybody has all the notes. So, you know, maybe now is the time to wrap it up, unless anybody has, I don't see any more questions coming in. I just appreciate everyone's patience this evening, and I appreciate all of your energy. And I would like to close with a healing prayer. This world is going through, and I forgot to say something about this class, but the world is going through an energetic change right now. Here, I'm going to say it right now, is that throughout this class, I've been urging you to live less on carbon and more on energy. That all food is based on carbon, but we say first stop eating the heavy starches and heavy carbon foods and learn to live on the lighter carbon foods. And then ultimately one day you'll be this great advanced yogi and you can live on pure energy. This planet Earth right now is going through a transformation where we are learning to live not by burning diesel and petrol, but live more on solar panels and wind energy. And it's very fascinating that all of us right now, we're in this transition time of learning how to live more on cosmic energy. The planet itself is in that transition time, and there's a link between you individually and you trying to uplift yourself, and you will help uplift this planet by trying to learn to become more aware of energy and have a cleaner consciousness and a higher vibration. So I felt that was just a fun point on how we're all connected. And so now we'll close by realizing our interconnectedness with this whole world and the transition it's going through. And please just sit upright and just get yourself into a calm, inner peaceful state. Take the next 20 seconds to find that place within you that's very, very peaceful. And let's take this inner peace and let's rub our hands together and let's send out our peace and help uplift the world and make the world a more peaceful place. Please chant Om with me 3 times. Om. 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 Chant, chant, chant. God bless.